This is Rummy's Corner. Saturday, we got our first significant heavyweight fight of the new year, in front of an extremely fired-up crowd in Germany. Undefeated heavyweight contender Agit Kabayel squared off against fellow undefeated heavyweight, the relatively unknown Damian Knyba. For Cabiel, this was his first fight since defeating Big Bang Jong in February of last year. Right out of the gate, Knyba was trying to impose his hulking size, ferociously attacking Cabiel with an extremely spirited effort. He was firing away with his jab and trying to make things rough. Knyba was sneaking in some uppercuts, and he was also firing off some right hands. Cabiel was trying to apply his trademark pressure, and Knyba was doing everything in his power to make a statement and earn his respect. Knyba was making a very strong account of himself, and it was quickly becoming a really rough round for one of the elite heavyweight contenders out there today. Despite having difficulty, Cabiel remained focused, and before long he started effectively attacking downstairs whenever he closed the gap. But Knyba was still doing enough to mostly keep Cabiel at range. But whenever Cabiel got in there, he was putting his punches together nicely, upstairs and down. But Knyba continued moving well and creating space, having put forth an outstanding effort in the opening round. Cabiel was bloody and cut after the opening stanza, and Knyba marched out confidently to begin round 2. Despite being on the receiving end of a great abundance of firepower, Cabiel continued pressing forward in an effort to get into range to attack, and whenever he got into range, he continued beautifully mixing his shots up and down, left and right. Knyba was doing his best to keep Cabiel at the end of his jab, but Cabiel simply wasn't having it. Once again, Knyba was making a very strong account of himself. But Cabiel was methodically discovering more openings, and he was quick to try and exploit those opportunities whenever he could. The action was intense, and the German crowd was all fired up, roaring with approval as Cabiel began establishing a very nice rhythm as round 2 came to an end. Cabiel was the one looking a bit more confident to begin the third, as the familiar pattern of the fight resumed. Knyba was firing away with his jab and trying to keep Cabiel on the outside, and Cabiel was working his way through the storm and getting into position to unload. Cabiel was like a shark in there, always moving forward, and he was beginning to find the mark with greater accuracy, pushing the pace to something much faster than Knyba was comfortable with. Cabiel nailed him good as things approached the halfway point in the third, and Knyba was still doing his best to try and slow him down. Cabiel started digging hard downstairs, and these body shots were having a visible impact as Knyba was retreating in his continued effort to create more space. Cabiel soon started landing big rights up top, and he staggered Knyba more than a few times during the prolonged onslaught. Another staggering big right from Cabiel prompted the referee to jump in and call it off. The fight was over. It was a third-round stoppage victory for Agit Kabayel. Now, to be sure, a lot of fans have been claiming the stoppage was early, and I tend to find myself in agreement with them. It did look as if Cabiel was coming on strong, and that his edge and big fight experience was taking over. But personally, I thought Knyba got off to a strong enough start that the ending felt a bit premature. At the end of the day, fans prefer more conclusive endings. And the stoppage here, the ending was not as conclusive as it may have otherwise been had the ref let it go just a little longer. Regardless, it was another victory for Cabiel, his first in almost a year, and with the victory his record improves to a perfect 27-0 with 19 wins coming inside the distance. It was a difficult start in this one for Cabiel, but I was actually impressed by what I saw. Despite being in there against a large opponent who came to fight and got off to a stellar start, Cabiel never let Knyba slow his roll. Despite eating a lot of heavy-handed shots and being cut, Cabiel just kept doing his thing, seemingly unfazed whenever things weren't going his way. I have long maintained that I believe Cabiel is the most interesting and perhaps most dangerous opponent out there for Usyk right now. And at this point, I would say that Cabiel is definitely the most worthy challenger out there too. The other guy who's unquestionably right behind him would be Fabio Wardley for me, but I believe that Cabiel is the most deserving challenger out there. And I likewise believe that Cabiel remains, potentially at least, the most dangerous opponent out there for Usyk right now. What makes Cabiel such an interesting opponent for Usyk, and what really makes Cabiel unique among today's top heavyweights, is his uncanny ability to attack the body. A lot of fans believe that Usyk is vulnerable to the body. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true in all honesty. There was the whole situation in his first fight with Dubois, which shouldn't be held against Usyk considering it was officially ruled a low blow. Then in his fights against Fury and AJ, both of them caught Usyk with a body shot here and there. The type of shot where Usyk seemed to react with a bit more discomfort than we are accustomed to seeing from him. Even in the rematch with Dubois, there was that one shot that was eerily reminiscent of the low blow from their first encounter. I'm not sure that Usyk is really any more vulnerable downstairs than he is up top. But what we do know is that Usyk has a damn fine chin, and he can take one hell of a punch. Cabiel is a devastating body puncher, and it's really interesting because a lot of the shots don't look like anything special when he's delivering them until you see the reaction from his opponent when they land. This was true in his victory against Makhmudov, where Cabiel was the underdog going into that one, and he just obliterated the ample body of Makhmudov. Cabiel likes throwing to the body, and he's very clever and efficient at finding ways to really dig his shots downstairs. It was the same type of display in his fights against Sanchez and Zhang as well. Once Cabiel finds his groove and gets into a rhythm, his hands start flowing with great fluidity, and he really does mix his punches up and down, left and right, as good as anyone competing at heavyweight today. Again, the punches themselves don't necessarily look especially devastating when you watch his delivery, and yet time and time again, once he digs a nice one downstairs, the visible agony of his opponent paints a clear picture. Those body shots are hurtful, the type of shots that no boxer ever wants to be on the receiving end of. It was the same type of story here again with Knyba. He seems to just casually start launching punches downstairs, and when they land, you can feel the pain of the poor guy on the receiving end. And while the body attack is the key to his success, he lands a nice shot upstairs too. And more importantly, it's the way he mixes up his attacks. And he does so fluidly and organically. Now don't get me wrong here. Usyk would still be the rightful favorite going in. Indeed, Usyk would be the rightful favorite going in against any heavyweight out there right now. Beyond that, it's worth noting that the guys Cabiel has been fighting, Makhmudov and Zhang especially, but even the night against Sanchez, and here again with Knyba, these aren't exactly the most fleet-footed mobile boxers out there. In a very real way, these guys can be viewed as rather stationary, especially when compared to a master smooth operator like Usyk. But all the same, I would love to see Usyk versus Cabiel more than any heavyweight fight that could be made right now. Doesn't look like that's in the cards next, as Usyk is reportedly in negotiations with Deontay Wilder, so it will be interesting to see where Cabiel goes from here. A fight against Wardley would be another great one right now, but not sure if that one's really in the cards now either. Whatever happens next, I for one will be sure to tune in to see where Cabiel goes from here. What did you think of Cabiel's victory against Knyba? And do you think there is any heavyweight other than Cabiel more deserving of the chance to challenge Usyk? Please let me know. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.